So let's say we do have, Mr. Mueller, I'll put you on the spot. Let's say we do have a speaker, one speaker, who wants to attend an event remotely and wants to give a presentation remotely. What are the different options out there that you can use internet for to make that happen?
Well, probably the cheapest solution would be Skype. I think everybody is familiar with Skype and knows about it. It's kind of a point-to-point webcam-based free video conferencing system. But if it's mission critical and if it's in a live event, it's we kind of try and shy away from that just because it has its quirks and it's less than the robust solution that we would typically provide. From there you go into a product like WebEx, which is a subscription-based product, a lot more features, a little more robust. And up from there, then you're into a solution like Polycom, where you have a dedicated codec and you can connect studio quality cameras to it, or even a product like IOCOM, which is now a web-based fee-for-service service that you can kind of use your own cameras and increase the quality. So there's lots of different options. It really depends on how mission critical that component is, but there's certainly ways that you can do it fairly inexpensively.
And I think with Skype, most of you are familiar with it. If you watch the news, you can see reporters reporting from Afghanistan or things like that, and you can see that the quality is not necessarily great. Often grainy, often maybe it takes a little while to catch up, that the mouths don't always move in synchronization with what people are saying, and that is actually not what Skype was intended for. Skype was intended for desktop to desktop, or very, very low means of communication in that manner. So using a system like WebEx through Cisco or GoToMeeting, some of you might have heard that, it allows you to originate from one location and be able to spread out your presentation to a number of different locations. And I believe WebEx, as Dave was saying, is a subscription service. $69.99 allows you to have 8 users that can join you in a meeting, and then it goes all the way up to thousands of dollars if you want many, many more. So that's kind of a price point for you.
Probably the biggest challenge is the bandwidth. In a perfect environment, if it really is that important, you want to get a hardwired, dedicated bandwidth to your endpoint, your local point. But a lot of times you can't control the bandwidth that the remote user has and how fast is their connection. Because you could have a great connection and they don't have a great connection, and you're still going to drop the call. So it's one of those things where it's a challenge because you can't control the quality throughout the entire process. So that's where you kind of need to do a little bit more planning and make sure that whoever you're video conferencing with at the other end does have a reliable, robust, and high bandwidth connection.
And now that companies like Amy's company, Polycom, have invested in wonderful equipment, and they actually do a lot of custom installs throughout many, many venues. And even though hybrid meetings is a little scary to some suppliers out there, we're not going to stop face-to-face meetings anytime soon, but some venues are diversifying their products and installing things like through Polycom so that they can host hybrid meetings, and they have the bandwidth, and they've made those commitments to and the investment to tap that particular part of the market. So these are the venues that really have it both ways. They can accommodate the face-to-face meetings, and they can also accommodate the hybrid models. How are we doing on Twitter? Do we have any questions, Miss Daniela?
Let's see, is the mic on? Perfect. So we have one on how do you negotiate around the use and in-house when penalties are so high for using outside? So talking about rentals.
Great question. I'm going to throw that to Miss Amy Drotar.
When you are negotiating in the beginning, when you hold all the cards before you have signed anything, that's when you need to negotiate and say we're not going to pay fees for it. Of all the places that I've worked with, if it's in my RFP in the very beginning that says this is a requirement, and this is just part of what you have to agree to hold our meeting, it's never been an issue. But you have to put it up front. Once you've signed the contract, then it's kind of hard to go back and say, oh, I want to be able to get this that I said I would pay for free now. So just definitely let them know in your RFP and throughout the process that you're going to be bringing in outside. You're welcome to give them a chance to bid if it's something that's appropriate for the in-house to bid on, whether it be network or AV. But in our case, there's times when we know up front we are not going to have somebody else bid. We're going to bring the people that have gone with us for years because they know our program better than we know it when it comes to the technical side.
How many of you put within your concessions, the planners out there, that you will need 20% off food and beverage or something like that? Anybody out there? There's a few of you. At the contracting process, you can absolutely ask for 20% off of audiovisual services or in-house services if you're looking to use an in-house company. Having those negotiating tools up front, like Amy said, is really, really the way to stay ahead of the game. So that was a great question. Do we have any more questions up on Twitter? Not now? Please do continue to send your questions to #iSummit2013. One of the things also I wanted to shoot out to the panel is within the contracting process for production, one of the most basic tools or the tools of advice I can give you are 24-hour holds. And I'm going to shoot this question to Miss Amy because I know that she has a little experience with 24-hour holds.
Definitely 24-hour holds. You can imagine if we were having this program and they said, oh, we're going to have a dinner tonight in this same room, and then you could just set all this back up tomorrow morning. No. Anytime you have any AV in a room that you want to hold, anytime you're going to have guests come back the next day for any reason, you want to have a 24-hour hold so that they're not planning another event. Sometimes they will say it costs a little bit extra, but it's going to be a lot less than resetting up everything. And you don't have to worry about if one of your VPs says, oh, I'm just going to stay a little bit late for a couple hours and meet with so-and-so. Because they will do that, and you'll want a spot for them to meet. You don't want them to come back and there's a dinner function or something like that going in the room.
Very, very good piece of advice. Now, on the wilder side of things, the new in thing lately, and I know Mr. Jensen has a little experience with this, is architectural mapping on inanimate objects, such as buildings or structures, bridges, if you will. I'm going to pop up a little video for you all to give you a look and into something like this. This is a hotel opening in Dubai. All of this is done with high-intensity lumen video projectors. All of these are used on the hotel itself, so it makes for an incredible show. This is an outdoor event, and it is at night, obviously. See just how dynamic some of these images are. We also have a clip from Ralph Lauren in London, their flagship store. They actually did an entire fashion show using this type of technology and video projection on their building. Like I said, this is all done with video projectors. You also might have seen this type of mapping at this year's, or actually was it last year's? 2012 London Olympics had a little bit of this mapping as well. Now this is definitely on the wilder side of things. On average, it costs about $250,000 to do something like you saw in the event in Dubai. But Dave, can you tell us a little bit about, if we don't have the budget for $250,000, but let's say we just had a room of this size and you really wanted to theme it by using video? What do you suggest?
Right, there are a ton of ways to include architectural mapping for events this size. One is you can put it outside in the hall, so that people walking in, they can see it. You can map the whole entryway to the general session, whatever. So you can do that. And you can also do an immersive environment. So you can take all the white surfaces in here, and instead of just lighting it, we could project on that, and we could make this a fish tank, but we could be inside the fish tank. We could make it space. We could make this any theme that you wanted to, and then it's pretty easy then to change that theme throughout the day, each meeting, however you want to do that. For lunch, you could change it. And then architectural mapping, obviously, it doesn't have to be inside. It does have to be dark, though, for projection still. So we've done things as big as Red Rocks now, actually projecting on rocks, just red rocks. Which, when we were approached to do an event on Red Rocks, I thought, oh, those are big rocks and they're not white. But it works. So the outside of your building doesn't have to be white. The inside of your building doesn't have to be white. So you can really theme your event and make it really big and really dramatic. And it doesn't have to cost $250,000.
And you can do things, we've done events where there was a daytime general session, and then the same room got used for dinner and an evening event. So we kind of themed the room with projection around the space, kind of a Hawaiian luau kind of during the day, but then just changed it so it was largely the same setting, but it was at sunset. So people walking into the room kind of, even though it wasn't sunset yet, they got the feeling that, hey, this is a different room, it's a different vibe, it's a different feel. So
You have a lot of flexibility with lighting.
lighting and projection, yeah.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions on Twitter? What about some of you out there? We talked about a lot of different things today, from mild to wild and technology, but what's on your mind? Anyone? We won't bite, I promise.
No, Amy might.
Amy might. That is true.
Just kidding.
Lovely.
Do you see that hotels are moving more into this creative alternative space for meetings? Because mostly you see a meeting room. But are they moving into areas where you're getting furniture, little breakouts, things that we saw in that first session?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a trend there. I think that, as we move forward, everybody's trying to find, what is unique? What can we do that really hasn't been done? So yeah, we work kind of with groups like that all the time, and we're out of the box thinkers as well. So we love to work with groups like that and come up with completely unusual ways to do very usual things that you see in every other meeting. It's just kind of, tapping into the creative side and say, how can we do this that A, is going to hit the budget, and B, it's going to be something that nobody's used to seeing.
Very, very good. Do we have any other questions? Oh, I have a question over here. We'll get to you.
So I have a question on the cost of wireless. I actually just received a quote from a hotel. This is for 450 people for 3 days for 20 megabytes per second. They actually said they recommended more, but to help with our budget, they're offering us this for $24,000, actually $24,500. And I was shocked. Is that accurate?
Do you know, are they charging by device or by just bandwidth? Because bandwidth shouldn't be that expensive. It depends on the hotel, but.
I'm really not sure
Okay.
which way they're going.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if
it
there's a
sounds
more-
like it's per user or device based on what you've told me. So, yeah, that's pretty expensive for, you said 20 megabits per day for
Right.
3 days?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty excessive. But again, they can charge, when you feel like you don't have a choice, they can charge you what they want, because since it is a necessity for your business and the meeting.
Right, so is this it sounds like this is a service that can be brought in as well. I mean, I
Right,
think we're all
right.
familiar with the option of bringing in our production, things
Right.
like that, and I do that all the time.
And 99% of the hotels that we work with are pretty flexible, even though they don't like having outside people come in, but they do allow it because that's what the meeting planners request, so.
So does the type of facility have an effect on an outside vendor being able to come in, or is it just as easy as bringing in production?
Well, I think Amy can give you this example. I actually took a site visit to the Vancouver Convention Center in January, and they had told me that, you can't bring any outside equipment in, or outside vendors can't supply the wireless or internet access there. But I'm not the meeting planner, and to tell you the truth, they upgraded that facility for the 2010 Olympics, and it was one of the nicest facilities that I've ever seen. And they really didn't need us, and we couldn't provide any really real cost savings. But however, Ms. Drotar recently went there as well, and she always demands your network guys and production guys be on site because they're most familiar with your equipment.
Well, and we also have a trade show where every single booth is running high-def video conferencing wirelessly out of their booth. So we are off the charts when it comes to how much we use and prioritizing. That's the other thing that folks like Dan provide is they can say, okay, general session is going to be top priority, or they'll have their own pipe so nothing disrupts that, and move things around so that if something's going to get interrupted, it's going to be people surfing their email in the room. It's not going to be something up front. So it's not just getting the price, it's also
Right.
getting the reliability and all that infrastructure behind it that makes a big difference.
Right.
So
And one of
definitely call some people and talk to Dan and
Yeah.
see if he can help you get something less expensive.
And one of the things some venues will do is they will bump up the price if it is a dedicated line. So look for that kind of verbiage in your contract, because if they are offering you dedicated bandwidth, that might be something that really, really raises your price up and can fluctuate it. But I do want to extend to you a caveat, because I am seeing from planners and from my friends in the industry that wireless is now being one of those areas similar to audiovisual that is written in contracts, saying that you cannot bring in any sort of outside networking company. So at the onset, you definitely want to write that within your RFP, and for all of you out there too.
But you can also get a quote from someone else and bring it back to them as a negotiating tool, even if you are stuck with that.
Very, very helpful. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, in the back.
Hi. So I'm working on a lot of conferences that like to capture content. So they audio or video record their sessions and then they post it on their YouTube. And there's not a lot of hits on it. Are there cheaper alternatives to, instead of just video recording, having the sessions on YouTube, are there some other cheaper alternatives that still allow people to capture the content, but without putting a video camera with staging in every room? So we're taking up not just space in the back, but we're getting 200 hits out of 10,000 users.
Are most of the, is most of the material that's getting recorded, is it camera shots or is it PowerPoint presentations?
Yeah, it's literally a camera that would be this with some guy talking in khaki pants where there's like a PowerPoint behind it. So it's not very dynamic. You know, if there's a dynamic speaker, I can see how you'd want that person to be there. But when you're, no offense to khaki pants. But when you have a guy on stage who's not a very dynamic speaker, maybe what he's saying is important, but I don't necessarily think that we need to capture all of the video for every single session running concurrently for 4 days. It's just, I feel like there's other ways to do it that might be a little bit cheaper, even if it's like a smaller digital camera. I don't know.
Yeah, well, one less expensive way might be to just record the presentations without a video camera in the room recording the presenter, because ultimately that's really not what people pay attention to. They're paying attention to the slides. So you'd have the program audio, what he or she is saying, along with whatever is on the screen. And the way we record that is full motion videos, so we capture slide transitions, we capture mouse movements. So it's really recreating the experience that someone would have sitting in the room. and then it can be delivered however digitally you would want, whether that's YouTube or on a website or within the app. So there's lots of options there, but that's actually pretty darn affordable.
And if you do have the MIC event app, one of the things that is new this year is we will have all of this content available. So not just iSummit, but every breakout session will be available to see and enjoy even after the fact. So if you do have the MIC event app, tomorrow, if you want to go and maybe watch another breakout session, we will have that PowerPoint presentation with the audio overlay. It looks very, very similar to if you have attended a webinar or something like that from your computer. It gives that kind of look and feel. So that might be an avenue that you definitely explore. Any other questions? These are wonderful questions, by the way. I think we have another question in the back. I think this lady right here, or am I seeing things? I'm seeing things.
You can make up a
Now
question.
you're on the
It's all
spot.
good.
I'm sorry.
I can share one tool that I found really helpful on conventionindustry.org. The Convention Industry Council now has a new little site that you can say, if I have this many people using these types of internet, whether it be just email or whether you have people doing video on the screen or whatever, it'll tell you about how much to anticipate in bandwidth, which for me, before I started with Polycom, I had no idea how much bandwidth it took to do anything. So they would say, I can give you this for 20 and this for 5. I didn't know what our folks would use. It's certainly not exact, but it gives you a general idea if you don't have an expert with you to answer that. It's conventionindustry.org, and it's part of the AMEX standards. And I think they just call it like the broadband calculator or something like that.
You could also Google Convention Industry Council or CIC, and they also have some resources available that are very, very similar to that as well. Well, first, I would like to thank all of you for attending our first.
Oh, more questions?
If you're done, you're done. That's fine.
No. We're never done. Go ahead.
We are never done.
It's 24/7.
From the wild side, if you were trying to just add a little bit more flair to kind of your basic meeting, where do you think your best bang for your buck is in terms of trying to add just a little something extra in terms of either audio-visual or both or whatever?
I'm going to talk myself right out of business with this. So we specialize in video and projection, and I'm going to tell you best bang for the buck is probably lighting.
Yeah,
I'm going to
probably
say it's lighting.
LEDs.
LED lighting. It changes color without having to change gels. It's low power, so you don't need extra power service. And
It actually saves probably about 60% in energy costs versus standard lighting instruments, bulb-based. It lasts forever. It doesn't generate heat. It's very green. It's probably the greenest technology.
Or purple, or blue.
Or blue.
Or blue, as you can see.
But it's
and-
environmentally sensitive. So, and you can truly, for not a lot of money, you can paint all the walls with color, and you can really change the look. You can do that if you've got multiple speakers coming up in a general session. You can change the color each time somebody comes off the stage and comes back up, and it really does kind of refresh everyone's interest and attention level. So that'd probably be the biggest thing.
Lighting is wonderful with color, but I could also suggest you could very, very inexpensively have a custom gobo cut, and a gobo is a fixture that you can put over a lighting instrument, and it projects just a static image on a wall. So if you wanted to use your logo or something of that nature, you could project that as well. So that's very inexpensive.
Another idea might be if you're in a big room and you have screens and projectors already for presentations, it's not that expensive to add a camera and a camera operator to do image magnification, especially if it's a fairly long room or there's a lot of people in the audience. That really adds a lot, and most of the infrastructure is already in place if you're doing presentations.
Excellent. Well, I would like to now, no more questions?
Anyone?
Anyone? Any Bueller? I would like to thank our panel today for taking the time out. Mr. Dave Jensen, Mr. David Mueller, Mr. Dan Song, and Ms. Amy Drotar. By the way, you can catch Amy's husband on 104.3 The Fan every Saturday. He hosts a sports talk show, so just wanted to give him a little plug. Thank you very much, panel, and please do enjoy the rest of your day at MIC.
Hold on, Kel.
I just have one quick announcement.
Sure thing.
I'm just here to recognize the password for the scavenger hunt. It's going to be located right here. So on your way out, if you want to go ahead and write down this number, this will be the text code for the scavenger hunt today. So you can go ahead and take a look at that on your way out. So that's
And I do know we're going to have some instant wins later for all of you, so you got to be playing the game in order to be an instant winner. Thank you once again, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your
Thanks,
day
everyone.
at MIC.